Have you ever thought that why do we have some set of people who have been consistently qualifying the prelims exam and continuously writing the mains? On the other hand, we have a particular set of people who find the prelims as their biggest hurdle. Though they may be mains ready, but उनका सबसे बड़ा hurdle जो है, the biggest obstacle what they feel is the prelims part. See, I'll tell you what. Those people who are consistently qualifying the prelims exam, they score somewhere around 105 to 110 on an average. ठीक है? And those people who are unable to do so, who have already appeared once or twice or thrice and have failed unfortunately to clear the prelims exam, they score somewhere around 75 to 85. Now, what I personally feel on the basis of my experience is there is not much of difference between these two sets of people as far as the knowledge part is concerned. देखिए, knowledge लगभग दोनों का सेम रहता है, बट देर आर टू डिफरेंशिएटिंग फैक्टर्स. दो फैक्टर्स हैं जो कि अलग करते हैं लोगों को, एंड वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर्स. द वेरी फर्स्ट फैक्टर विच आई फील इज द स्मार्टनेस. यस, यू हर्ड इट राइट, बीइंग स्मार्ट. देखिए, point is that you are appearing for civil services examination where you are going to become, if you qualify, you're going to become administrator needs to be smart. I have seen many hardworking people, but they are not smart in a sense that they keep themselves restricted to that particular question itself. They don't think beyond that. तो थोड़ा out of the box thinking बहुत ज़रूरी है. Second thing which I feel is the risk taking ability. Yes, you heard it right. I have seen many people who are knowledgeable, who are attempting the mocks, but they are very conservative. They are very conservative while attempting the tests. They are very fearful, they have the anxiety, and they attempt less number of questions. देखिए भाई, if you qualify the exam, you'll be posted as a district magistrate, and a district magistrate needs to have that decision making ability. तो आपको थोड़ा risk तो लेना पड़ेगा. If you're not taking risk, it can be counterproductive. तो ये दो differentiating factor हैं. Believe me, this video is going to be very helpful. Just give some time to it. One point which I would like to say is, just to save your time, please watch this video at a greater speed, maybe at 1.25 or 1.5. Now, what I'll be doing today is, I'll be talking about two very important things. दो बहुत important चीज़ें. First thing I'll talk about कि भाई वो कौन से areas हैं, which are all the areas which you should not ignore. Those 10 areas, those 10 domains जो कि आपको ignore नहीं करने चाहिए. Second more important thing which I'll be talking about is that what should be your approach. ये बहुत important है कि भाई approach क्या होनी चाहिए with respect to these particular areas. अगर आप बहुत ही conventional तरीके से पढ़ रहे हैं तो इट इज़ गोइंग टू बी डिफिकल्ट. थोड़ा सा आपको आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स थिंकिंग दिखाना पड़ेगा, थोड़ा सा अनकन्वेंशनल तरीके से आपको पढ़ना पड़ेगा. यू विल हैव टू स्टडी स्मार्ट. बिलीव मी, आई विल यूज द PYQs and I'll tell you that how you can very easily go from somewhere 75 to 105 or 110. Believe me, it is doable. The very objective of this particular video is not to create anxiety as most of the people on the YouTube are doing. The very objective is to make you confident, to make you feel कि भाई आप भी कर सकते हो बहुत आराम से. Let's begin without wasting time. These are my credentials. So I have qualified prelims 5 times out of the 6 attempts. You can take a pause and look at this. Most of the attempts I have scored more than 100 marks in the prelims. ठीक है? And whatever knowledge I've got through all these attempts, I'm going to share it today. देखिए, पहला इंपॉर्टेंट, सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट एरिया जो है विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द प्रीलिम्स एग्जाम, आई पर्सनली फील इज द पॉलिटी पार्ट, द पॉलिटी एंड द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाला एस्पेक्ट. नाउ सी, एवरीवन हु स्टार्ट्स द प्रिपरेशन, ही और शी स्टार्ट्स विद द पॉलिटी पार्ट. ठीक है, लक्ष्मीकांत भाई, बाइबल, होली बाइबल, पीपल जनरली स्टार्ट विद लक्ष्मीकांत. बट जो तरीका है, द वे इन विच दे स्टडी पॉलिटी, आई थिंक इट्स रॉन्ग. इफ यू लुक एट द काइंड ऑफ क्वेश्चंस विच आर कमिंग इन द UPSC, यू विल फील कि भाई क्वेश्चन जो है ना वो बहुत, दे आर ट्राइंग टू जस्ट एसेस, दे आर ट्राइंग टू चेक कि भाई आपके कंसेप्ट क्लियर हैं या नहीं है, आपके बेसिक्स क्लियर हैं या नहीं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द ओवरऑल पॉलिटिकल स्ट्रक्चर, द ओवरऑल गवर्नेंस पार्ट. ठीक है, तो उसमें सबसे ज़्यादा इंपॉर्टेंट मुझे लगता है पॉलिटी वर्ड यूसेज से, जो हम यूज़ करते हैं द वर्ड पॉलिटी, आई थिंक मोर इंपॉर्टेंट इज द स्टडी ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. प्लीज डोंट इग्नोर द स्टडी ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल दे रेफर लक्ष्मीकांत. ठीक है, In Lakshmikant, it's a very wonderful book. I myself referred to it, but what I personally feel is कि भाई क्योंकि वहाँ पे इतना emphasis नहीं है bare acts पे, bare clauses पे, bare articles पे, I think it leads to the confusion. I'll give you the example for that. There are certain high yield zones in polity which you shouldn't ignore. पहली बात तो starting from Article 1 including the preamble to Article 50, ये तो आपको छोड़ना ही नहीं है. This is the most important part. Next, we have, for example, some topics. As I told you, we have the fundamental rights. क्या क्या रीजनेबल रेस्ट्रिक्शंस हैं, कौन कौन से फंडामेंटल राइट्स हैं. DPSPs बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है. There have been questions where UPSC has tried to link DPSPs and FRs. Very important. फिर फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर की बात आती है. फेडरल स्ट्रक्चर कि भाई सेंटर और स्टेट्स में क्या बेसिकली इशूज़ हैं. वी हैव द ऑफिस ऑफ द गवर्नर विच मैनी पीपल से दैट ही इज एक्टिंग एज अ एजेंट ऑफ द सेंटर. तो गवर्नर बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन ऑफ फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज, देयरफॉर वी हैव हैड क्वेश्चंस विद रिस्पेक्ट टू द फाइनेंस कमीशन. तो ये इंपॉर्टेंट थीम्स हैं. उसके बाद भाई फंक्शनिंग ऑफ द पार्लियामेंट बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. Functioning of the parliament, especially when I talk about different offices. We have the office of the speaker, we have deputy speaker, we have chairman, we have deputy chairman. ये तो आप ignore कर ही नहीं सकते. Because and if you study parliament in detail, I think it would be very easy to study the state legislature. तो ये आप ignore मत करो. Executive वाला part important है. Last वाले chapters, if you're referring to Lakshmikant, we have the elections and all those things. I don't think that is very much important. In UPSC, I think what is more important is the language of the constitution itself. अगर आप constitution की language पे ध्यान नहीं दे रहे हैं, if you're just going through a conventional textbook like Lakshmikant, I think it is going to be difficult. Let's look at this particular question. Now, in this particular question, you can see that we have, in question number 51, we have, with reference to the Indian polity, consider the following statements. An ordinance can amend any central act. भाई जाहिर सी बात है, वी हैव सिचुएशंस वेयर इन सम एक्सीजेंसीज, इन सर्टेन केसेस द एग्जीक्यूटिव इज ऑथराइज्ड टू कम विद द ऑर्डिनेंस. डेफिनेटली एन ऑर्डिनेंस कैन एब्रिज अ फंडामेंटल राइट. भाई देखो ये बहुत सिंपल सी बात है कि वी हैव इन आर्टिकल 13 इट टॉक्स अबाउट कि भाई लॉ क्या होता है, विच ऑल्सो इंक्लूड्स द ऑर्डिनेंस. इट देन सेज कि भाई कोई भी लॉ फंडामेंटल राइट को एब्रिज नहीं कर सकता. तो यहाँ पे डायरेक्ट बात हो रही है आर्टिकल की, तो वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट. तो ये भाई गलत हो गया. एन ऑर्डिनेंस कैन कम इनटू इफेक्ट फ्रॉम अ बैक डेट. व्हाई नॉट? वी कैन हैव रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव लेजिस्लेशंस. रेट्रोस्पेक्टिव लेजिस्लेशंस बिल्कुल हो सकता है. ठीक है, तो यहां पर द सेकंड स्टेटमेंट वुड बी इनकरेक्ट. नाउ कमिंग टू दिस, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट 68. मनी बिल की जब बात होती है, मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल दे हैव दिस आर्टिकल 110 इन द माइंड, एंड दैट इज व्हाट यूपीएससी एक्सप्लॉइटेड इन दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन. भाई आर्टिकल 109 mentions special procedure in respect of money bill. Most of the people thought that this is incorrect, but ऐसा नहीं है. भाई प्रोसीजर की जो बात है, when I'm talking about the procedure, it is definitely mentioned in article 109 and not in 110. That is what we have over there is the definition of money bill. A money bill shall not be introduced in the Council of States. बहुत ही basic logical चीज़ है. जाहिर सी बात है, it's correct. We only have, as far as the money bill goes, the prerogative, the sole power is with the Lok Sabha. The Raj Sabha can either approve the bill or suggest changes but cannot reject it. That is a very basis. ठीक है, that is the reason we say कि Lok Sabha has special powers. Amendments to money bill suggested by the Raj Sabha have to be accepted. भाई this is incorrect, have to be. और देखो ये extreme statement है. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे दो चीज़ें important है. पहली बात, प्लीज मेक श्योर दैट यू ऑल्सो गिव इंपॉर्टेंस टू द आर्टिकल्स एज सच. आर्टिकल्स को इग्नोर मत करो. अभी इफ टाइम परमिट्स, हैव अ लुक एट द बेयर एक्ट, इट कैन बी हेल्पफुल. सेकेंड थिंग इज मेक श्योर वेन एवर यू हैव एक्सट्रीम स्टेटमेंट्स, ट्राई टू जस्ट रीड इट, ट्राई टू हैव सम काइंड ऑफ सस्पिशन ओवर दैट. ठीक है, तो बहुत आराम से ये क्वेश्चन आप कर सकते हो. नेक्स्ट थिंग विच आई टोल्ड यू इज दैट यूपीएससी इज आस्किंग दोज क्वेश्चंस इन पॉलिटी वेयर इट इज ट्राइंग टू मिक्स अप डिफरेंट टॉपिक्स. लुक एट दिस: separation of judiciary from the executive in the public services, DPSPs, valuing and preserving the rich heritage of the composite culture, the fundamental duties, prohibition of employment of children below the age of 14 years, fundamental rights. So in a particular question itself, 3 aspects of polity have been assessed. 3 चीजें assess कर ली गई. So, I mean, whenever you are studying DPSPs, डोंट जस्ट रेस्ट्रिक्ट योर सेल्फ टू DPSPs. थोड़ा सा ब्रॉडली सोचो. ठीक है, थोड़ा सा अपना थिंकिंग डोमेन जो है उसको ब्रॉड करो. आई थिंक यू विल बी एबल टू डू दैट. ऑल 3 आर करेक्ट. लुक एट दिस. As per Article 368 of the Constitution of India, the Parliament may amend any of the provision of the Constitution. It is given in the very article itself by the way of addition, variation and repeal. तीनों तरीके से. और ये कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन की लैंग्वेज है 368 की. यहाँ पर वही मैं आपको बता रहा हूँ कि भाई आर्टिकल की जो ओरिजिनल लैंग्वेज है दैट इज इटसेल्फ वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. प्लीज डोंट इग्नोर दैट. ओवर हेयर द आंसर वुड बी 1, 2, 3. I hope it is clear. There are some topics starting from 1 to 50 articles. Federal relations, we have the parliament, we have state legislature, we have the executive. Then the language of the constitution itself. Please don't ignore that. I hope it is clear. Conceptual clarity पे ध्यान दीजिए. I think it's going to be very, very helpful. Coming to the second topic, one of the very favorite areas of UPSC, which is the international organizations. Now, see, why this becomes important is because there have been quite good number of questions coming from this. लेकिन भाई पढ़ना क्या है? UPSC as far as the international organizations is concerned, what it focuses upon. देखो कुछ कुछ चीज़ें हैं जो कि आपको कोई भी आपके सामने ऑर्गेनाइजेशन आए, जस्ट कीप अ ट्रैक ऑफ फ्यू थिंग्स कि भाई उस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है. What is the very basis of that particular organization? What is the mandate? ठीक है, वो करती क्या है. जैसे भाई हम बात कर रहे हैं IUCN की, इंटरनेशनल यूनियन फॉर कंजर्वेशन ऑफ नेचर. जाहिर सी बात है, दिस body talks about that how we can conserve different animal and plant species. What are the factors which are leading to the depletion in the biodiversity, right? So basic mandate हमेशा याद करो. उसकी membership का एक logic बना लो अपने दिमाग में कि भाई who all are the members, right? Then also whether the body is a regional body or is it a global body. ठीक है, तो बेसिक चीज़ें. इतना सब कुछ याद नहीं करना है कि भाई कब इंसेप्शन हुआ था, कब बॉडी बनी थी. नो, आई विल गिव यू एन एग्जांपल. और यहाँ पर एलिमिनेशन बहुत काम करता है, एंड वील टॉक अबाउट दैट. Consider the following. India is a member of International Grains Council. Look, even if I don't know what this particular body is all about, I can very easily solve this particular question. पहली बात, International Grains Council. It's a council. ठीक है, तो when we are talking about a council, it's but obvious that it would generally not have a binding mandate. ठीक है, a country needs to be a member of the International Grains Council for exporting or importing rice and wheat. अरे भाई, there are many countries who are facing sanctions, right? But still they are having some form of export and import, some form of trade with their friends. तो ज़रूरी नहीं है ना. और see, rice and wheat are the basic grains. How can this be a mandate कि भाई you'll have to be a member of this particular body, only then you can export rice or wheat. So this is the very logic says कि भाई this would be incorrect. India, since it's a nation which values the international rules and regulation, and since it's a particular country which has an agriculture dominance, this can be a possibly correct statement. तो भाई जाहिर सी बात है, the answer would be one only. See, again, I'm not saying कि आपको सब कुछ पता होगा, but हाँ, थोड़ा बहुत रिस्क आपको लेना पड़ेगा. Look at this. With reference to the United Nations General Assembly, consider the following statements. The UN General Assembly can grant an observer status to a non-member state. भाई यहाँ पे बहुत ही moderate word use हो रहा है, can. Definitely possible है, why not? Intergovernmental organizations can seek observer status in the UN General Assembly. Yes, why not? Because again, there's a moderate statement which is there. Moderate word which is can. Permanent observers in the UN General Assembly can maintain missions at the UN headquarters. यहाँ पर ये नहीं लिखा that they are not allowed या फिर they cannot, whatever. It is using a very moderate word, right? And we also have the presence of 1, 2, 3 in most of these questions. I'm not saying कि कोई ऐसा rule है, there's a rule like that, but हाँ, if you have the moderation in the language of the question, if the reading of it gives you an impression कि हाँ भाई rationally थोड़ा rational लग रहा है, कुछ गड़बड़ नहीं है, and if there is this particular option of 1, 2 and 3, in most of the situations that is the correct answer. ठीक है, तो उस तरह से आपको अप्लाई करना है. नेक्स्ट, लेट्स लुक एट दिस. कंसिडर द फॉलोइंग. एशियन इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इन्वेस्टमेंट बैंक, मिसाइल टेक्नोलॉजी कंट्रोल रिजीम, शंघाई कोऑपरेशन ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. एक और चीज़ इंपॉर्टेंट जो आपको समझनी पड़ेगी इज थोड़ा सा ना, देखो, अब ऑल दीज टेक्निक्स कैन नॉट बी अप्लाइड अगर आपने कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ा है. यू विल हैव टू हैव अ बेसिक नॉलेज, अच्छी थोड़ी बहुत नॉलेज होनी चाहिए, एंड देन इफ यू हैव अ गुड नॉलेज बेस, देन द स्मार्टनेस वुड डेफिनेटली गिव यू a more of strategic advantage. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, Missile Technology Control Regime, Shanghai Cooperation Organization. India is a member of which of the above? भाई मुझे पता है that SCO में तो इंडिया है ही 100%, इसलिए you will see that we have 3, 3, 3. Okay. One thing which I know for sure is that Missile Technology Control Regime, this is only a particular group where China is not there, but India is there. एंड दिस इज अ वेरी कॉमन नॉलेज, यू नो, अगर आपने थोड़ा सा भी आर्म्स कंट्रोल ट्रीटी पढ़े हैं, राइट, सो यू विल अंडरस्टैंड दैट MTCR इज अ पर्टिकुलर ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विच हैज द पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ इंडिया बट नॉट द पार्टिसिपेशन ऑफ चाइना. Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, yes, it's a very famous investment development bank, and which is based in Beijing, right? India is a member of that, and right now it focuses upon a lot of countries are members of AIIB. So यहाँ पर India is a member of which of the above? All three are correct. Most of the questions which I've taken from 22, 23, 24, and 25, and I've not taken easy questions. Mind, I've taken those questions where you can apply some minds and come to the answer. Consider the following statement about G20. The G20 group was originally established as a platform for finance ministers and central bank governors to discuss the international economic and financial issues. Yes, this is the very base of G20. अगर आपने थोड़ा सा भी G20 का inception पढ़ा है, starting पढ़ी है, you will understand that originally it was because of the financial crisis. Originally we had the assembly of different governors and the finance ministers came on board of the important countries, and they decided कि भाई how we can improve the situation, right? Digital public infrastructure is one of India's G20 priorities. See, India has made significant progress as far as the digital public interface is concerned. ठीक है, आधार हो गया, जनधन योजना हो गया, what we call as India stack, right? Or you can say, you know, the again the role being played by the UIDAI, ठीक है. So this was the very objective of India as far as the G20 presidency goes. Once we were the president in the year 2023, we gave a lot of emphasis on digital public infrastructure, DPI. We said that कि भाई we'll have to integrate economy, we'll have to integrate the education, the health aspect into a digital framework. तो भाई बिल्कुल सही है, ये भी correct है. See, again, India has been emphasizing, and in fact, the developed countries like Germany, France, they are seeing that what all progress India has done, and they are trying to emulate what India has done as far as the digital public infrastructure is concerned. तो यहाँ पे बहुत आराम से आप निकाल सकते हो आंसर. Both 1 and 2 would be the correct. Let's go to the next topic, which is the report and indices. ये इंपॉर्टेंट है भाई, जो भी करंट अफेयर सोर्सेज आप पढ़ रहे हो पिछले 1-1.5 साल में जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट रिपोर्ट्स आई हैं उनको पढ़ो अच्छे से. नाउ आई विल टेल यू व्हाई दिस इज इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज देखिए कभी कभी क्या होता है, देर आर रिपोर्ट्स विच बेसिकली आर क्वाइट कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी, राइट, एंड दे बेसिकली टेल इंडिया इन अ नेगेटिव लाइट. दे पोर्ट्रे इंडिया कि भाई इंडिया में तो अभी सब कुछ बहुत बेकार चल रहा है. हो सकता है कि वो रियल भी हो, तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है, ठीक है. एंड वॉट यू हैव टू फोकस, पहली बात, कोई भी रिपोर्ट है तो भाई उसका जो पब्लिशिंग बॉडी है, हु हैज़ पब्लिश दैट पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट, थीम क्या है, ठीक है, ये भी बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. बिकॉज कभी कभी क्या होता है दैट यू हैव द ह्यूमन डेवलपमेंट रिपोर्ट कमिंग विद अ पर्टिकुलर थीम, वर्ल्ड इकोनॉमिक फोरम इज कमिंग विद अ पर्टिकुलर रिपोर्ट विद अ थीम, तो थीम याद रख लीजिए, इंपॉर्टेंट रहेगा. और ब्रॉड इम्प्लीकेशंस क्या हैं इंडिया के लिए, what is India's position, that is also very important. Look at this particular question. According to United Nations World Water Development Report, India extracts more than a quarter of the world's groundwater withdrawal each year. Now it means, it says almost 25% of the world's groundwater is extracted by India. Again, extreme statement, but again, if you have gone through the basic NCRTs, you will read that India has a very high extraction of ground water. ठीक है, ये बहुत बहुत ही एक कॉमन नॉलेज फ्रेमवर्क है. 25% है या नहीं, इसका मुझे आइडिया हो भी सकता है, नहीं भी हो सकता, एट वंस आई एम गिविंग द एग्जामिनेशन, बट हाँ, इंडिया हैज़ अ वेरी हाई रेट ऑफ एक्सट्रैक्शन. लेट्स रीड द सेकंड स्टेटमेंट. इंडिया नीड्स टू एक्सट्रैक्ट मोर वाटर than a quarter of the world's groundwater each year to satisfy the drinking water and sanitation needs of almost 18% of the world population. So यहाँ पे भाई प्राइमरी रीज़न जो निकल के आ रहा है वो है कि भाई सैनिटेशन एंड ड्रिंकिंग वाटर. दिस इज, इवन इफ यू अप्लाई सम लॉजिक, यू विल फील कि भाई दिस इज एब्सोल्युटली इनकरेक्ट, बिकॉज वर्ल्ड ओवर द बिगेस्ट सोर्स और द बिगेस्ट यूसेज विच वी आर डूइंग फॉर the groundwater, after extracting the groundwater, it is for the agriculture purposes, what we call as the irrigation. ठीक है, इंडिया में more than 80% of the groundwater which we extract is used for irrigation, so this automatically becomes incorrect. तो यहाँ पर भाई पहला सही है, दूसरा गलत होगा, ठीक है. That is how you can understand, because why I'm saying first is correct, because India has a lot of extraction which we are doing as far as the groundwater goes. Let's look at this. Rule of law index is released by which of the following? There are certain reports which frequently come in the Hindu. they are featured in the Hindu. Please keep a track of them. कौन सी रिपोर्ट है, which body releases that, अगर आपको ये भी आइडिया है तो आप बहुत आराम से you can have an advantage of 2 marks over the others. The answer would be World Justice Report. Let's talk about the next part. Government schemes. Again, one of the favorite areas of UPSC. Reason being that once we have the questions coming from the scheme, once we have the government coming up with different schemes, obviously there is a natural expectation if it is trying to bring a better change in one or the other domain, be it the education, be it the sanitation, be it the any part health aspect, तो automatically that becomes very very important. तो ये मुझे ignore नहीं करना है. I'll have to make sure that whatever in the last 1 or 2 years I have gone through the current affairs, I keep a track of all those schemes, important schemes which have been featured in the Hindu. Now what aspirants basically study, ठीक है, what they'll basically read is कि भाई कौन से साल में launch हुई, launch year. Then they'll talk about पूरा नाम रटेंगे. If there's an acronym, they'll try to revise or memorize the full names. Random facts, ठीक है, मतलब उन facts का कोई मतलब नहीं है. And in most of the current affairs magazine, be it the Vision IS or any of the magazine, there are a lot of information in the boxes and people try to memorize that. Don't do that. आपको करना क्या है भाई, कोई भी स्कीम है उसका ऑब्जेक्टिव क्या है, ठीक है, उसका टारगेट ग्रुप क्या है, किसको वो टारगेट कर रहा है, राइट. देन हु इज द इम्प्लीमेंटिंग मिनिस्ट्री. It can be the Ministry of Jal Shakti, it can be the Ministry of Education, right. Then you'll have to understand कि उसका स्कीम का नेचर क्या है, whether the scheme is a centrally sponsored scheme or it is a centrally sector scheme, ठीक है. तो यहाँ पर जो होगा वो स्टेट्स का भी कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन होगा, यहाँ पर स्टेट्स का कॉन्ट्रीब्यूशन नहीं होगा. ब्रॉड एक फ्रेमवर्क याद रखो, ठीक है. हैव अ फ्रेमवर्क in your mind. Don't just memorize each and every part of the scheme. Just know that what is the very objective, who is the implementing agency, and whether the scheme, the nature of the scheme, whether the scheme is a centrally sponsored or central sector. Look at this. With reference to Digital India Records Modernization Program, consider the following. Whoever has gone through the current affairs, and especially once this particular question was asked, you must be aware of there was a program, National Land Records Modernization Program, NLRMP. Now this was a centrally sponsored scheme. इसको convert किया to this particular thing, Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. Or if anyone has gone through this particular scheme, you would know that this is a central sector scheme. This is a very important point. I think this is the most important point for Digital India Land Records Modernization Program. तो ये अगर आपको याद है कि भाई ये सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम है जो कि कन्वर्ट हुई है फ्रॉम दिस पर्टिकुलर स्कीम टू अ सेंट्रल सेक्टर स्कीम, सो आई थिंक इट वुड बी वेरी ईजी एंड दैट इज व्हाट द UPSC has tried. See, one is correct and one is there in 3 statement. That is now it's trying to check. Under the scheme, cadastral maps are digitized. Yes, so you have different maps at different places, especially at the local levels. Those all maps are being digitized. Digital India लिखा हुआ है यहाँ पर, जाहिर सी बात है सही होगा. An initiative has been undertaken to transliterate the records of rights from the local language to any other language recognized by the Constitution of India. Yes, that is what we are doing. We are converting the data to machine readable formats and we are making it more accessible, especially to the vernacular languages. Now over here what we are doing is we are taking all the language of the 8th schedule. तो यहाँ पे भाई ये भी सही है, तो यहाँ पे आंसर क्या होगा 1, 2 and 3. As I said, no statement over here is extreme, so you can very easily find the correct answer. Let's look at this. With reference to the Ayushman Bharat Digital Mission, consider the following statements. Private and public hospitals must adopt it. बहुत ही आराम से आप एलिमिनेट कर सकते हो. कोई भी स्कीम अगर गवर्नमेंट लेके आई है and that to a scheme which is facilitating the whole scenario, trying to convert into a digital ecosystem, it cannot be. भाई आप सोचो ना, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इशूज़ हैं. अब कोई अगर हॉस्पिटल है असम में या फिर ट्राइबल विलेज ऑफ मे बी गुजरात और इन तमिलनाडु, हाउ कैन इट बी मेड मैंडेटरी अगर वहाँ पे इंटरनेट कनेक्टिविटी नहीं है, ठीक है. तो फर्स्ट इज obviously it's incorrect. Look at this. We have first over here, we have first over here, we have first over here. Automatically you get the correct answer. You don't need to just even read what other options are. समझ में आया? तो दैट इज हाउ यू अप्लाई सम लॉजिक. थोड़ा सा स्मार्टनेस, थोड़ा सा रिस्क आपको लेना पड़ेगा, एंड देन यू कैन वेरी इजली गेट टू द राइट आंसर. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट द नेक्स्ट पार्ट विच इज अगेन बहुत ही लगाव, बहुत ही प्यार है यूपीएससी को एनवायरमेंट से. बिकॉज सी वाई टेल यू, UPSC is asking more of questions from the environment because it is a real issue. President Trump may say that it's a hoax, it's something which is unreal, but this is real, and that's the reason, especially after 2010, UPSC has been focusing upon the environment based questions. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर बहुत ज़रूरी है कि मैं प्रॉपर इस चीज़ को कवर करूँ. अब सही, आई हैव सीन मैनी स्टूडेंट्स, what they are doing is most of them they are referring to Shankar IAS and then they are reading and memorizing all those species. अरे भाई मत करो, ठीक है? अगर एक आध स्पेशीज आ भी गया, क्वेश्चन नहीं भी आता तो छोड़ देना ना. पूरा 180 थोड़ी लेके आना है, 150 मार्क्स थोड़ी लेके आने हैं मेरे को भाई. आई हैव टू जस्ट पास विद अ डिसेंट मार्जिन. ठीक है, सो इंपॉर्टेंट क्या है एनवायरमेंट में? पहली बात तो क्लास 12th NCERT लास्ट 4 चैप्टर्स. आई ऑलवेज टेल दिस टू माई स्टूडेंट्स. Class 12th NCERT class, the subject is biology. Last 4 chapters are very important. Definition of ecology, cell stages, succession, primary succession, food web, trophic levels, very very important. वो कर लीजिए. Last 12 to 18 months जो भी कन्वेंशंस हुए हैं, जो भी इंपॉर्टेंट मीटिंग्स हुए हैं इंटरनेशनली, कोई भी फ्रेमवर्क अडॉप्ट किया हो, कोई भी एग्रीमेंट अडॉप्ट किया हो, तो वो ऑटोमेटिकली इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है. हर चीज़ नहीं करनी. इंडियन जो लीगल फ्रेमवर्क है, वॉट वी हैव बीन, वना शक्ति अभी जजमेंट आया सुप्रीम कोर्ट का, राइट? सो वॉट ऑल the courts have been saying, deliberating, giving verdicts as far as the environment domain is concerned, or the Indian legal framework, that automatically becomes important. I'll tell you how to basically proceed with these questions. With reference to perfluoroalkyl and perfluoroalkyl substances that are, polyfluoroalkyl substances that are used in making many consumer products, consider the following. Now, if you just read this particular substance, PFAS, you would feel कि भाई ये जो substance है, ये this is a chemical, right? Now, since it includes polyfluoroalkyl substances, perfluoroalkyl, this is, let's go through these statements and we'll see that. PFAS are found to be widespread in drinking water, food and food packaging materials. PFAS are not easily degraded in the environment. ठीक है? Persistent exposure to PFAS can lead to bioaccumulation in the animal bodies. First of all, this is a chemical. It's very clear. Now, अगर मुझे स्लाइट आइडिया भी है, थोड़ा सा भी आइडिया दैट दिस इज अ केमिकल एंड दिस इज अ परसिस्टेंट केमिकल, राइट? इफ आई एम सेइंग दैट आई हैव एन आइडिया ऑफ स्टेटमेंट 2 कि हाँ भाई ये सही है, because of the kind of consumerism we are having, almost we have these particles in every food substance, in every consumer product we are using, right? So first would also be correct because this is a persistent organic pollutant, right? That is what you'll have to understand. PFAS. Persistent exposure to PFAS can lead to bioaccumulation. This is a very basis of environment, bioaccumulation, biomagnification. ठीक है, जैसे जैसे आप ट्रॉफिक लेवल्स बढ़ते जाओगे, there would be a biomagnification. The very plastics and all these chemicals, they accumulate in the human body. So over here the answer would be automatically 1, 2 and 3. ज़्यादा इधर मुझे लॉजिक भी नहीं लगाना पड़ा. And if I go through this and see, as I said, यहाँ पे कोई भी statement extreme भी नहीं है, and it is talking about a particular chemical, so obviously this would be correct. Look at this. Many chewing gums found in market are considered as a source of environment pollution. You see people throwing chewing gums right on the road. Yes, it is, and many times the bird feed on that and they die because of the choking. Then we have many chewing gums contain plastic as a gum base. By gum base hai plastic, it is something which is non biodegradable. That is a very basic knowledge framework you can understand, you can apply कि भाई सिर्फ एक, this is the very base of chewing gum is the plastic, right? So over here both these statements are correct. Look at this. Invasive species specialist group. अब मुझे पता भी नहीं है कि भाई कौन पब्लिश करता है. I have an idea of IUCN, right, which I know talks about the conservation of nature with respect to the animal species, the plant species. तो यहाँ पर भाई वो बताते हैं कौन कौन से फैक्टर्स रिस्पॉन्सिबल हैं विच आर लीडिंग टू द डिप्लीशन ऑफ बायोडाइवर्सिटी. वन ऑफ द फैक्टर्स इज इन्वेजिव एलियन स्पीशीज, नॉट द IAS विच वी आर प्रिपेयरिंग फॉर, बट द इन्वेजिव एलियन स्पीशीज. तो यहाँ पर भाई IUCN कैन ईजिली बी मार्क्ड. अदर ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस मे बी ट्रू एंड दिस आई ऑल्सो डिस्कस इन द लास्ट वीडियो, बट अगेन बाकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस का जो मैंडेट है वो बहुत ब्रॉड है, राइट? बट IUCN हैज़ अ वेरी स्पेसिफिक मैंडेट. Look at this. Which one of the following best describes greenwashing? Now, this was a term which was quite in the news during these days. सो दिस बेसिकली सेज कि भाई जब आप कोई भी एंटरप्राइज, कोई भी कंपनी ड्यूप करता है, if that particular company dupes by saying that we are investing a lot in making green things, or we are making our processes more sustainable, that is what greenwashing is all about. Conveying a false impression that companies' products are eco-friendly and environmentally sound. Very simple, and that is where the definition becomes important. तो आप ये चीज़ में ध्यान में रखिए, and this would be very easy. Let's go to topic 6, which is the economy part. Now देखो economy में क्या है ना, लोग बहुत ज़्यादा कवर करने की कोशिश करते हैं. People try to mug up the definitions. UPSC asks certain things in economy. It tries to tests कि भाई आपको कंसेप्ट पता है या नहीं. ठीक है, कंसेप्ट मतलब वेदर यू आर एबल टू डीकोड और डीकंस्ट्रक्ट द कॉज एंड इफेक्ट. अगर एक वेरिएबल ए अगर बढ़ता है, व्हाट इज गोइंग टू बी द चेंज ऑन वेरिएबल बी. दैट इज व्हाट द यूपीएससी टॉक्स अबाउट. इंटर रिलेशनशिप्स बिटवीन डिफरेंट कंसेप्ट कि भाई प्राइमरी डेफिसिट क्या है, फिजिकल डेफिसिट क्या है, इफेक्टिव रेवेन्यू डेफिसिट क्या है. तो ये सब चीज़ें बहुत ही कॉमन है, ये आपको आना चाहिए. ठीक है, look at this. With reference to investments, consider the following: bonds, hedge funds, stocks, venture capital. How many of the above are treated as alternative investment funds? क्वेश्चन मुझे पता भी नहीं अगर कि भाई ऑल्टरनेटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड्स होता क्या है. मुझे पता है कि भाई बॉन्ड्स और स्टॉक्स जो हैं, भाई AIF ऑब्वियसली इट्स अ न्यू टर्म. It's not something which has been there in existence for years. But what I know is I have studied that conventionally, once we talk about the economy part, we have the bonds and the stocks which are very बेसिक एंड कन्वेंशनल इंस्ट्रूमेंट्स. ठीक है, तो जो बॉन्ड्स हैं वो डेट इंस्ट्रूमेंट है, बहुत ही बेसिक कन्वेंशनल. स्टॉक्स जो हैं वो इक्विटी इंस्ट्रूमेंट है. तो भाई ये तो नहीं होगा क्योंकि ऑल्टरनेटिव इन्वेस्टमेंट फंड्स हैं, hedge funds, venture funds. These are the funds or the capital which are quite prominently featured in the newspaper right these days. So ये automatically becomes alternative investment fund. If you have even a slight knowledge of what AIFs are all about, you must be aware that we have different categories, category 1, category 2, category 3, right. वो तो ज़्यादा हो गया, but हाँ अगर आपको बेसिक भी पता है तो आप आराम से मार्क कर सकते हो. Which of the following are the sources of income for Reserve Bank of India? In this particular question, look at this. We have the pension fund. I know that pension fund is something which is out of the scope as far as the part of RBI is concerned. Okay, we have PFRDA, Pension Fund Regulatory Development Authority, which has a sole mandate. Lending to private companies. भाई डू यू थिंक दैट RBI इज गोइंग टू लेंड टू प्राइवेट कंपनीज? प्राइवेट बैंक्स हो सकता है बट प्राइवेट कंपनीज नहीं होगा. RBI कैन लेंड टू द प्राइवेट बैंक्स एंड प्राइवेट बैंक्स कैन फर्दर लेंड टू प्राइवेट कंपनीज, बट नॉट द अदर वे अराउंड. सो यू कैन वेरी easily eliminate third and fourth, and if you eliminate third and fourth you can very easily get the answer 1, 2 and 5. Let's look at this. With reference to Indian economy, consider the following statement. If the inflation is too high, Reserve Bank of India is likely to buy the government securities. भाई मुझे ज़्यादा आइडिया नहीं है बट हाँ मुझे इतना पता है कि इन्फ्लेशन मतलब कि मार्केट में मनी सप्लाई बहुत ज़्यादा है, मनी की वैल्यू कम हो रही है, राइट. इफ़ द RBI हैज़ टू रिड्यूस द मनी सप्लाई, वॉट इट वुड डू इज इट वुड बेसिकली सेल द गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ ताकि उसके पास पैसा वापस ज़्यादा है, राइट. इट सेल्स द गवर्नमेंट सिक्योरिटीज़ एंड as a return it takes the money back so that the money supply in the market is reduced. Over here the answer is likely to buy. तो उल्टा है भाई, ये तो होगा ही नहीं. ठीक है, goes against a very basic concepts. I told you कि यहाँ पर रिलेशन समझना बहुत ही ईजी है और बहुत ही आसान है, राइट. यू कैन जस्ट अप्लाई सम लॉजिक एंड कम टू दिस कंक्लूजन कि अगर मनी सप्लाई ज़्यादा है, RBI would suck the money from the market. And how it would do that? By basically selling the government securities. Now, one is there over here, one is here, one is here. I am not even reading the other options. I can very easily mark the correct answer 2 and 3. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पर मैंने पढ़ा भी नहीं, इसलिए बोलते हैं कि भाई एलिमिनेशन नॉट ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ ब्लाइंड गेसेस बट एलिमिनेशन ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ लॉजिक. दैट इज हाउ यू डू इट. Consider the following statement. The Reserve Bank of India mandates all the listed companies in India to submit the business responsibility and sustainability report. भाई पहली बात तो ये कि listed companies वर्ड आ गए यहाँ पर. RBI has a mandate as far as the monetary policy is concerned, right? Banking aspects are concerned. यहाँ पे listed companies is something which goes beyond the mandate of RBI. And if I have even a slight idea, I know that this is the domain of SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. तो भाई पहला तो गलत हो गया. In India, a company submitting the BRSR report makes disclosures in the report that they are largely non-financial in nature. Yes, see, when I'm talking about the sustainability and responsibility part, I'm basically referring to the ESG part, environmental, social and governance framework. तो यहाँ पर आई नॉट टॉक अबाउट द फाइनेंसेस ऑफ द कंपनी, रेदर आई टॉक अबाउट कि भाई जो मेरी कंपनी है वो एनवायरमेंटली क्या कर रही है, हाउ इट इज़ ट्राइंग टू मेक द प्रोसेस मोर सस्टेनेबल, हाउ इट इज़ ट्राइंग टू मेक things more socially inclusive, how it is trying to have a proper governance framework. So this is correct. So over here the answer would be second only. Let's talk about the other topic, which is geography. Again, people try to mug up a lot of things in geography. Geography is a subject where definitely आपको याद करना पड़ेगा, but थोड़ा लॉजिक अप्लाई करो, थोड़ा सा ना अपने दिमाग में इमेज बनाओ. Whenever you are reading or studying a particular thing, try to form a mental image. That's really going to help you. What UPSC focuses upon, भाई जैसे if I ask you a question and if I say a statement, let's say UPSC has asked a question, it says all the rivers flowing from the Western Ghats, they enter the Bay of Bengal. Now जाहिर सी बात है कि भाई ठीक है, majority of the rivers and big rivers which emanate from Western Ghat, which rise from Western Ghat, they fall into Bay of Bengal. But सारी तो नहीं होंगी, राइट, तो ऑटोमेटिकली गलत हो गया. तो थोड़ा सा यहाँ पर लॉजिक स्मार्टनेस आपको लगानी पड़ेगी. भाई फ्लो का लॉजिक देखो, रिवर फ्लो का लॉजिक क्या है, ठीक है, माउंटेन्स का अलाइनमेंट क्या है, विल टॉक अबाउट दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन, राइट, वेयर आर इफ इवन इफ यू हैव अ बेसिक आइडिया ऑफ वेयर दीज माउंटेन्स आर सिचुएटेड, यू कैन वेरी इजली गेट टू द राइट आंसर. Climate influence, we can talk about कि भाई what is the climate influence, we have the monsoon, we have the local winds. Then भाई कई बार डायरेक्शन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस भी इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाते हैं. ओशियन करंट्स कौन कौन से हैं, वार्म करंट, कोल्ड करंट, राइट, व्हाट इज द डायरेक्शन ऑफ अ पर्टिकुलर करंट, कीप अ ट्रैक ऑफ दैट. लेट्स लुक एट दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन. नाउ इन दिस पर्टिकुलर क्वेश्चन वी हैव नामसा बरवा. Now it says Garhwal Himalayas, Nanda Devi, Kumayi Himalayas, Nokrek, Sikkim Himalayas. Now let's talk about the Namsa Barwa. I have a very clear knowledge of this fact कि Namsa Barwa is a particular mountain peak in the northeast. ठीक है, गढ़वाल, if I'm seeing गढ़वाल over here, I know that this is in उत्तराखंड. मुझे नहीं पता exactly कहाँ पर है, but ये उत्तराखंड में, तो ये तो rule out हो गया. Nanda Devi, Kumaon, I don't know whether this is correct or not. Nokrek, again, even if I have a slight knowledge about Nokrek National Park, which is in Meghalaya, and this is saying Sikkim, भाई एकदम ही अलग लोकेशंस हैं, तो 1 and 3 तो गलत है. 1 and 3 अगर मेरा गलत हो गया तो यहाँ पर आंसर क्या हो गया, 2 only. 2 only can naturally, you can just very easily find the correct answer, right? The term Levant, often heard in the news, roughly corresponds to which of the following regions? यहाँ पर important है the Hindu की. I'm telling you, any person who has gone through the Hindu, especially the international page, regularly, consistently, things would be very easy for that particular person. Swat Valley, Golan Heights, ठीक है, all these questions have been asked in the UPSC. Levant, region along the Mediterranean, it has countries like Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, Israel. This is a particular region. So we have the Mediterranean over here. These countries, the countries over here, they are the Levant, right? Look at this. Consider the following countries: Azerbaijan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan. Which of the above have borders with Afghanistan? अब ये क्वेश्चन इंपॉर्टेंट है और आप इसको अप्लाई कैसे कर सकते हो भाई, यूक्रेन न्यूज़ में, ठीक है, विच आर द कंट्री विच आर बॉर्डरिंग यूक्रेन, ऑटोमेटिकली इंपॉर्टेंट हो गया. मलदोबा है, बेलारूस है, हंगरी है, ठीक है, तो ऐसे आपको कंप्लीट करना है. पोलैंड है. तो इस तरह से जस्ट नो दैट व्हाट ऑल आर द बाउंड्रीज, व्हाट ऑल आर द कंट्रीज विच बॉर्डर यूक्रेन, or let's say Russia on this particular part, on the eastern part or on the western part. So automatically this becomes important. India is one of the founding members of INSTC, a multimodal transportation corridor which will connect. भाई ये तो मतलब बहुत ही बेसिक है. It would connect India to Central Asia to Europe. And this, whenever we talk about India-Russia relations, we definitely talk about INSTC, right? Because this is a route which is more economical than the traditional Suez Canal route. तो अगर आप न्यूज़ अच्छे से फॉलो कर रहे हैं, स्पेशली द इंटरनेशनल पेज, यू कैन वेरी इजीली, एंड दीज आर द क्वेश्चंस जो फ्री वाला क्वेश्चन है, अगर आपको आता है तो आप बहुत आराम से यू कैन डेवलप अ गुड बेस एंड गेट गुड मार्क्स. टॉपिक 8 इज मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री. येस, नाउ व्हेन आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री, इट इज़ एन एरिया जहाँ पर आपको ना ज़्यादा कंसेप्ट नहीं है. इट इज़ मोर अबाउट मेमोराइजेशन. हिस्ट्री इज़ ऑल अबाउट मेमोराइजेशन. थोड़ा बहुत आप लॉजिक अप्लाई कर सकते हो depending upon the question you have, but again it is more about memorization. तो यहाँ पर it is not much about the concept. किस तरह के क्वेश्चंस वी आर गेटिंग. यूपीएससी इज आस्किंग क्वेश्चंस ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ कि भाई कोई भी अगर मूवमेंट था तो उसका नेचर क्या था, whether it was an extremist or a more radical or any kind of pacifist movement. Then ideology के basis पे questions आ रहे हैं. There have been questions कि भाई leadership किसकी थी. तो कोई भी अगर आप चीज़ पढ़ें, कोई भी मूवमेंट, कोई भी इशू, कोई भी इवेंट, जस्ट सी दैट what was the very objective, what kind of movement was it, and who were the leaders which were involved, right? Let's go through this particular question. Now, it's a very beautiful question. Sedition has become my religion was the famous statement given by Gandhiji. Gandhiji always said that we need to follow the rules. But this particular statement, sedition, we all know that Gandhiji started the civil disobedience. Civil disobedience का मतलब ही क्या है? That you are disobeying the government of the day. And that was in the Dandi March, where Gandhiji started on April 6, 1930, the civil disobedience movement. So sedition कब होगा? तभी होगा. By which of the following acts was the Governor General of Bengal designated as the Governor General of India? Even if you have followed Lakshmikant, the basic text, you would know that Charter Act of 1833 was the peak of centralization, where you had the Governor General of Bengal being designated as Governor General of India, and it was the very famous Lord William Bentinck who was designated as the very first Governor General of India. ठीक है, यहाँ पर देखिए with reference to Government of India Act of 1935, तो यहाँ पे acts देखो बहुत important है. ठीक है, just make sure that you give proper attention to the acts. With reference to the Government of India Act of 1935, consider the following statement. It provided for the establishment of all India Federation. ये तो very basis था Government of India Act of 1935 का. It provided the aspects of federation on the union of the British Indian provinces and princely states. Defense and foreign affairs were kept under the control of federal legislature. If I have given a basic reading of Government of India Act of 1935, I know that we had at the central level the subjects, the classification of subjects as reserved subject and transferred subject. Those subjects, there were some subjects which were reserved by the Governor General, and there were some subjects which were transferred to the federal legislature. The important subjects कि भाई foreign affairs हो गया, defense हो गया, external relations हो गया, they were capped as the reserved subject and they were not transferred to the federal legislature. So second becomes incorrect. Who provided the legal defense of the people arrested in the aftermath of Chauri Chaura incident? Most of the people would go through the basic conventional text and they would have a very simplistic idea of कि भाई Chauri Chaura क्या था, right? People killed the police forces as a retaliatory measure, and that's the reason Gandhiji called off the non-cooperation movement. बट ये क्वेश्चन बोल रहा है कि भाई लीगल डिफेंस किसने किया था. तो ये चीज़ थोड़ी अनकन्वेंशनल क्वेश्चन है. आई वुड डेफिनेटली नॉट एडवाइज गोइंग विद दीज क्वेश्चंस, बट अगेन द आंसर इज मदन मोहन मालवीय एंड कृष्णकांत. सो मदन मोहन मालवीय एंड हिज सन कृष्णकांत, they basically defended the people who basically killed almost 22 police officers, right? So that is how you cater to the part of history. Coming to the most fearful aspect, because ज़्यादातर लोग ह्यूमैनिटीज़ बैकग्राउंड से होते हैं एंड दे हैव दिस इशू इन साइंस एंड टेक्नोलॉजी. लेकिन देखिए भाई, इन द यूपीएससी क्वेश्चंस आर नॉट गोइंग टू चेक वेदर यू आर एलिजिबल फॉर इसरो, वेदर यू आर एलिजिबल फॉर बिकमिंग अ साइंटिस्ट. नो, इट वुड चेक कि भाई आपको एक बेसिक साइंटिफिक फ्रेमवर्क आता है या नहीं, whether you have gone through the NCRTs of class 6 to 10th. साइंस बेसिक इतना कर लो, इंपॉर्टेंट है. और जो भी टेक्नोलॉजी, जो भी टेक्नोलॉजी न्यूज़ में है, उसका भाई एप्लीकेशंस क्या है. टेक्निकलिटीज़ पे नहीं जाना है, ठीक है, उसके एप्लीकेशंस पे जाओ, कंसर्न्स पे जाओ, उसका बेसिक मैकेनिज्म समझो कि भाई वो टेक्नोलॉजी काम कैसे करती है. When I'm talking about this particular question, we have, let's say this, consider the following space missions: Axiom 4, Space, SpaceX, Gaganyaan. How many of the above space missions given above encourage and support microgravity research? भाई आप स्पेस में जाओगे, over there you will have microgravity, right? And most of the experiments, we had Shubhanshu Shukla, Axiom 4 mission, he experimented कि भाई what is the change or what is the effect of microgravity on the physical behavior, on the biological behavior at the molecular level, right? तो ये सारे ही जितने भी missions हैं, they all involve this particular aspect. They all involve the aspect of when I talk about the microgravity, encourage the research with respect to microgravity. So overhead, all the three would be the answer. With reference to green hydrogen, consider the following statement: it can be used directly as a fuel. अरे भाई, green hydrogen का very objective क्या है कि आप blend करो उसको conventional fuel के साथ, so that you make the fuels more cleaner, right? That is what the objective is. It can be blended with natural gas. Yes, why not? It can be used. Can बोल रहा है यहाँ पर, extreme statement नहीं है. It cannot भी नहीं बोल रहा है, ठीक है. It can be used in the hydrogen fuel to run fuel cells to run vehicles. Yes, so we can use green hydrogen in two ways. Either you can use in internal combustion engines or you can use in the fuel cells. तो इस तरह से all the three would be correct. Some rare earth elements are used in the manufacture of flat television screens and computer monitors. We all know that the rare earth elements, they are very important and they are becoming strategic tools for many countries including China, mainly China. Now these rare earth elements, they have some special properties, ठीक है, तो इतना मुझे पता है, and they are used in electronics. तो भाई ये सही हो सकता है, this can probably be correct. Some rare earth elements have phosphorescent properties. See, once I talk about some rare earth elements, once you give them some energy, their electrons get excited and they emit a particular form of light. ठीक है, तो जब वो एक particular light emit करते हैं, then that is used in different these equipments which I just told, which is the computer monitors and screens, right? Because over there we have different pixels and every pixel has a capacity to emit a particular form of light, right? And therefore definitely this is correct. So over here both these are correct. Which of the following statements best describes the role of B cells and T cells in the human body? मुझे थोड़ा सा भी आइडिया है कि भाई मेरे को बी सेल्स का आइडिया नहीं है, बट आई नो दैट टी सेल्स, दे व्हाट वी कॉल एज द लिम्फोसाइट्स. नाउ these are the cells which are used, which basically fight against the pathogens. तो भाई बी सेल क्या करते हैं? बी सेल basically they secrete some form of proteins and these proteins get attached to a particular pathogen and then it kills it, right? तो यहाँ पर antibodies बनाते हैं. बेसिक भी अगर आइडिया है, ठीक है, दे प्रोटेक्ट द बॉडी फ्रॉम द एनवायरमेंटल एजेंट्स. व्हाट आई एम सेइंग इज, सी यू कैनॉट हैव अ पिन पॉइंट आइडिया ऑफ एवरी कंसेप्ट, बट हाँ थोड़ा बहुत लॉजिक अप्लाई करके यू कैन गेट टू द आंसर वेरी इजली. कमिंग टू द लास्ट टॉपिक विच इज द करंट अफेयर्स एंड स्टैटिक लिंकेज. देखो यहाँ पर चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट हैं बिकॉज अभी क्या है, व्हाट आई हैव सीन इज मेनी पीपल दे स्टडी करंट अफेयर्स एंड स्टैटिक एज टू डिफरेंट थिंग्स. वो मत करो, ठीक है, दोनों को एक प्रॉपर इंटीग्रेटेड वे में करो. इट्स रियली गोइंग टू हेल्प यू अलॉट. जैसे भाई अगर अभी मुझे पता है कि स्पेशल इंटेंसिव रिवीजन चल रहा है, तो आपको पता होना चाहिए कि भाई स्पेशल इंटेंसिव रिवीजन का बेसिस क्या है. व्हाट इज द बेसिस ऑफ SIR? इफ आई एम टॉकिंग अबाउट द बेसिस, आई हैव टू गो विद द RPA, रिप्रेजेंटेशन ऑफ पीपल्स एक्ट, ठीक है. उसके बाद ECI का रोल क्या है यहाँ पर, फिर यहाँ पे कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल functions, mandate, ECI, ठीक है, why the people are saying that ECI is not acting in an impartial manner. तो ये automatically try to just go further in the news and find out कि भाई अगर एक particular news में कोई item है, what is the static basis for that particular thing, right? The Prime Minister recently inaugurated the new circuit house near the Somnath temple at Veraval. Which of the following statements are correct? See how beautifully the question has tried to link the current event with that of the static. People would have seen this particular news, but किसी ने, कुछ ही लोग होंगे थे, would be very few people would have searched about the Somnath temple. Somnath temple is one of the Jyotirlinga shrines. Okay. A description of Somnath temple was given by Al-Biruni. Now, this is a very simple fact that Al-Biruni basically talked about the invasion of Somnath temple by Mahmud Ghaznavi in 1024 AD, right? And he talked about that. Pran Pratishtha of Somnath temple was done by President S. Radhakrishnan. So it was primarily Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel who led to the reconstruction of the temple, and we had in 1951 the first president of India, Dr. Rajendra Prasad. He basically did this particular thing. So this is incorrect. It's not President S. Radhakrishnan. So what I'm saying is, if there's a particular news where the Prime Minister or the President has inaugurated a particular thing, please go into the background of it and see what all things are there. Indian Railways have prepared a national rail plan to create a future-ready railway system by 2028. Generally, you will see deadlines as a function of 5, right, as a multiple of 5, 2025, 2030. तो भाई ये गलत हो सकता है. Kavach is an automatic train protection system developed in collaboration with Germany. I am very pretty much sure कि भाई Kavach is an indigenous system. It is not something which is developed with the help of any other country. तो second तो गलत है. Then let's talk about the next thing. Kavach system consists of RFID tags fitted on the track in the station section. Now, RFID रहता है, radio frequency identification. Yes, it is there, 100% it is there, and it is because of that cover system works. Now second is, it's saying which of the following are not correct. So second is incorrect, right? Third is correct, right? So obviously over here what I'll see is that we have third option as correct, but over here third is correct and first would be incorrect. Yes, this would be incorrect because the date is not something which is in line, which is not in line as a multiple of 5, or which is not uh, you know कॉमन सेंस नहीं एक्सेप्ट कर रहा है इसको कि भाई 28 होना चाहिए, ठीक है, बिकॉज वी आर ऑलरेडी नियर टू इट. एंड so if I would have marked, first of all, I would make sure, if until unless if I'm not sure about statement second, I'll not attempt this particular question. But if I'm sure about second statement, then possibly I would attempt, ठीक है. तो I'll make sure कि I'll mark this as incorrect. So first and second are incorrect, right? So Kavach is an indigenous system and we have it uses the RFID. Biorock technology is talked about in which of the following situations? Biorock technology is being used, even if I have a slight idea, it's being used for the protection of the marine life. So we have the coral reefs, we have the seagrass, we have the different items, and all of them are being degraded. So biorock technology, it uses some low voltage electricity, and it leads to the creation of accumulation of calcium carbonate, and therefore you have a good base created for different marine species. तो यहाँ पर आंसर क्या होगा? Restoration of damaged coral reefs. So what I am saying is, whenever you find a new term, or you find a news which is important, which has the prime minister or the president or any union minister involved in that, please go into the background of it. It's going to be very, very helpful. Again, the conclusion is, देखो भाई, सिर्फ हार्ड वर्क से नहीं होने वाला. If you're just relying on hard work, it's going to be very, very difficult. You'll have to be smart, you'll have to take some risk. That is what is going to help you. My objective in today's session was just to tell you the approach, ठीक है. तो अब ज़रूरी नहीं है कि आप उतना स्मार्टनेस काम करें, बट हाँ, थोड़ा सा आपको आउट ऑफ द बॉक्स सोचना पड़ेगा. इफ़ यू हैव टू बेसिकली मूव फ्रॉम 75 टू समवेयर अराउंड 105, which is very much doable. Please make sure that you take a bit of risk. Don't just restrict yourself to that particular question. थोड़ा सा देखो कि भाई उस क्वेश्चंस को एक्सप्लोर करो, उस क्वेश्चन को देखो, थोड़ा समय दो उसको, 15-20 सेकेंड एक्स्ट्रा दो. You will get to the correct answer. And again, you have enough time to just develop those skills. अगर आपको लगता है कि नहीं भाई मेरे साथ तो ये skills ही develop नहीं हो पा रही, तो कोशिश करो, ठीक है. Just give some time to it and you'll do it. Finally, my best wishes. Again, on the IS Track channel, I am continuously providing on the telegram of the IS Track channel. I'm trying to give the best of the quality content and strategies, because I understand that it takes a lot of effort, especially for those of you who are not relying on any of the coachings. I'll make sure that I provide the quality content. If you like this particular video, please do share with the serious aspirants. This is the QR code. Please do join the channel, and this is really going to be helpful. I'm not saying कि सब कुछ आपको आज की वीडियो में हेल्प किया होगा, but हाँ, definitely if you even just absorb 50% of it, you would see the change in the terms of marks you are getting in the examination. That's all from my side. My best wishes. Again, just search about the channel and please do join it. All the very best. Thank you.